Good morning. How's everybody? Okay, so the first thing I want to let you know is this is a session in which we invite participation. Prasad and I are facilitating. So please, let's have some participation because that's what we're here for, is to share information. So while I'm talking, I'm Rose Young, and I have very interested in community teams because I have been with a nonprofit that we started to support FRC Team 2199, which has a really long name, but we call it Pi Cubed. I'll give you the name later. It was an experience, and ever since then, I've talked to a lot of people that have similar and slightly different experiences. And I continue to hear from people and get a lot of questions saying, how did that work for you? We're having this issue or that issue in the school. We need some help. And so I thought this would be a good way to discuss it. And I also knew that Prasad had some experiences, again, slightly different. Everybody's slightly different. Our community organization is a nonprofit that was organized in 2011. And has a board that are mostly mentors, but we have now multiple teams under that umbrella, which makes it interesting as well. So we will be talking about a couple of different points, but we really would like to hear the shared perspectives and the different experiences on all of that from some of you. And I know some of your stories, and I might call you out if you don't want to speak up, but we do welcome everybody to share. Prasad?
Yeah, again, as Rose said, this is not a how-to. This is more of sharing our thoughts on how all of us ran. I mean, I see a lot of you out there who've got community teams, how we ran it. It's not a one-size-fits-all. What worked for me may not work for Rose or any of the other teams, but we'd like to share this. But what we did was we kind of took 4 basic things out of how we ran the teams, and we'll have a discussion on it while the slides go through. As far as me, I accidentally started a nonprofit. I sold my previous company, and I was taking a sabbatical. And I used to run FLL teams, and I thought, okay, while I'm taking the sabbatical, let me help out the community. But I didn't want kids coming into my basement without their shoes taken off and getting yelled at by my wife. So I reached out. I mean, my STEM center was just down the street. I live here. I know the developers. I just reached out to them, and they gave me some space in a commercial property. They joke about it like he asked for 1,000 square foot space, and I encroached, I squatted. Eventually it became 6,000 square foot STEM center, running multiple First Lego League Junior, FTC, FRC, drones, rocketry teams, even cyber patriot teams. And then COVID hit, and for multiple reasons, I kind of stopped it, closed it down. In fact, I just officially shut down the nonprofit about a month ago. I had the space for 2 years without any programs running, hoping someone would step up. So all those things we'll discuss through the different slides. But that's kind of my background. And I swore after I closed the nonprofit, I'm done with first. But I pulled in a lot of favors from people who lead head refs, people, event managers. When they call you out to come back and volunteer, you have to, because you called in favors when you need it. So, and now, as much as I want to say I don't want to do anything with First, I was just elected to be on the First Chesapeake board earlier this month. So I guess I'm not going anywhere. So here I am, so we can discuss more about how we're going to do this. So.
And since you talked about where you came from, I actually did start in the school. So I do know about that transition and starting out, as part of a school, and the reasons that maybe that's not a good thing, or wasn't, at least in my case. So knows about some of those challenges. So feel free though to share your own ideas. And I guess, first of all, these are the 4 things that Prasad mentioned. When you are running teams, no matter what level, these are 4 things that you have to have, right? These are the things that go into teams, and how do you do that when you don't have the built-in, students are at your school and maybe the teachers are the mentors and the school provides you money, haha, that's really funny. Or at least some space, right? So we're gonna just throw these topics up, share a little bit, and want to hear from you on, like what do? You have suggestions, you have questions, you have concerns on these topics.
So I mean, since we have 45 minutes, we'll kind of do about 10 minutes per slide. And we basically have 4 slides and we'll just throw it out there and we'll have a discussion. For me, the biggest factor was the mentors. When I started, let's just go to the mentor slide. So, for sustainability of a community team, I think you need to have mentors. Without mentors, students, you can somehow get it, but I mean, when I started, it was me, and then there was a community that grew, and there's mentors who were there. But when their kids grow out, those mentors go, and you'll get more students. But if you don't have mentors, I don't know how to keep it going. And towards the end, it was just me and maybe 3 other mentors who were, and I'm speaking specifically for the FRC side of it. It's very hard to run an FRC team with like 2 or 3 mentors.
It sounds like you were saying that the mentors were parents of your students, right? And that's
So I
why
had
they're making
both.
out.
I had both because so here's my experience, right? My STEM center was just about a mile, not even a mile, less than a mile from here. I had a whole bunch of mentors from APL who came in because they wanted to really give back to the community. I mean, like, I had a mentor who was the program director for the Parker Solar Pro. I had the mentor who was the chief software architect for the DOT program. They all wanted to come and give back to the community. But what ends up happening, they're there like 2-3 years, and I don't blame them. Parents come drop their kids and go off, and then it's their job to babysit the kids, and that turns them off. These people are doing it for the community. And they're like, why the heck am I babysitting somebody else's kids and having to deal with the tantrums, right?
Yeah.
So that was an issue. I mean, that was my perspective. Now, Rose may have a completely different perspective, and I'd like to hear others here. How are you sustaining the mentors? How are you getting?
Yeah,
I know you were
we had a
lifting
couple
it.
people,
Yeah, so go ahead and.
I don't even have anything to say anymore. I guess I was gonna ask you, did Dwight Carr help you advertise in APL? Did you have APL itself helping you draw these people in? That's one angle. And the other angle is, if you're not a professional educator, you don't know about all this classroom management stuff and all that stuff that they indoctrinate you in teacher training and so on, it can be very, very difficult. And so it almost seems like you need, 5 mentors and 1 retired teacher.
Yes.
I could be wrong. I don't know.
It depends on, like, when I ran my STEM center, I did not want it to be another, I called it organized chaos, because I didn't want it to be a structured learning space. I wanted them to, so our theme was demystifying STEM. So we wanted people to come in and kind of find their comfort zone. So we even had a costume play team, because we wanted kids who wanted to be designers, but I mean, I remember this particular incident where there were 2 girls sitting and they're trying to design a, the Avatar Airbender has this little wing going up, and they're trying to design this whole thing. And there's this our FRC mechanical engineering girl, she's working with a girl with design interest. And I just walked by, I saw it, and I just gave them a little tip on how to think through it. And they came up with this really awesome design, right? So what I was trying to say is, I didn't have a instructor, like what you're saying, a teacher in our center to do the managing on how to control or how to handle the students. But I did have a situation where we were doing all these coding classes, and a mom called and said, hey, my son is into Minecraft, can you do something? And I said, we can teach you the Minecraft, but he had Asperger's syndrome. I don't know how to deal with kids with Asperger's syndrome. So I reached out to the local associations. And they had no interest in sending someone to deal with, and I didn't want to take the liability of having to deal with. So I hear what you're saying. So we didn't have it, and I actually do work with Dwight very closely. Dwight can only send out emails, right? In the sense, I'm not in a bad way. He cannot force a mentor to come. The mentor has to feel, and he's done. No, that paid part is only for his Aspire program within, that I don't think his mentors can get paid to come to Hagron to do the training, but he does pay his mentors who teach. I think he's got the Aspire program or something that runs out of APL. I know him really well, and we've had multiple conversations about it. He's a really good friend of mine. So he's tried to help us get mentors, but I actually was more successful reaching out to friends, husbands, friends who really come. They come see the STEM center and they get really excited.
Well, the other
Someone-
part that I think some of you have experienced and is that the parents of the students are, right, Joe, who's like on my team and his kids are on the team, right? Yeah. And do some of them stay longer?
Yeah.
Okay, 'cause my youngest is 30 and so I'm stuck, you know.
From us, there's two mentors that have active students, everyone else, they've already.
But do you force your parents to be mentors, or is that a force or like, what is it? There's a.
Do you conscript them? So like, say we have 15 students on the team. 3 parents are in the STEM related or want to be active. And it's almost organic, they want to be involved with that. And then of that 3, 1 will stay after a student.
Yeah.
Graduates. So no, we've never made a requirement that if you can't drop your children off to.
Can I ask you where are you located? Where's
We're
your?
located in northern Virginia,
Okay.
out in a rural area. We build a robot on a farm.
Okay.
Nice.
No, that's good to know, because what I noticed was if you're in suburbia, what I felt is if you're in suburb, I mean, and I'm speaking purely from my experience, parents will come and say, oh, I'm so busy at work, and I mean, these are their excuses, and I'm like, yeah, I am busy too.
They used to say, if you want the job done, ask of this man. So like both of us are like retired program managers, senior engineers, software developers. So we're lucky that in that environment, even though it's rural, we're not that far.
Far away.
But you said retired, so a lot of people that do have the time.
These four of us have retired. So
Yeah.
I mean, I know Tim's group, you have.
You don't have anybody retired yet.
Oh, your STEM center, I mean, I was talking to Zach one time, and he doesn't even have a kid, and he's.
Yeah, so I'm with 836, the Robies out of Southern Maryland, and our backstory is we started a nonprofit called Growing Stems back in 2011 as a way to allow us to do outreach events outside of the school system's umbrella. So we didn't have to get a teacher and or field trip form during the summer. Like during the summer, we couldn't do anything because we didn't have a teacher. So it started then in 2014. At the end of the 13-14 school year, teacher retired. School system pulled some strings, I'm gonna say, and allowed us to stay in for another year. Had 2 mentors that were considered coaches, much like a football coach, had keys and alarm codes. The summer after 2015 season, some lawyers changed at the school system, some differences of opinions of what liability risks were, and they said, oh, you have to have a full-time employee, and if you want to use a room, they were going to tackle on a fee, and it basically turned out to be $100 an hour. Yeah, and a whole bunch of other stipulations, like you had to be out by 8 o'clock at night, no holidays, no weekends, like, well, all of us are meant, we don't have a single teacher.
Montgomery County is $8.
So like, we don't have a teacher, so all of us have, full-time jobs. So for us to get out and be done by 8 o'clock at night is hard. Especially giving up the weekends is hard. So we eventually found a spot out in town. We were leasing for a while. And then we got kicked out, honestly kicked out there. His business blew up. So he gave us some time and he helped us find another space to move into. That's where we are now. But I think it's it's a blessing and a curse to leave the school system for sure. We have a lot more freedom, but there's one of the other slides we'll get to later, I'm guessing. The space and money becomes a problem.
Guys have, any private schools nearby?
We have one, so we have so our team was really based out of the tech center, so we pulled from the 3 public high schools. And then we have St. Mary's Riken, which is part of the WAC or whatever the DC, school system is. And we reached out to them, they were they had an FTC team, I think they still do. But they weren't really interested in adopting us. We did have a couple conversations, but I just don't, interest and goals didn't fully align. But by moving out of the school system, our program blew up. So we go all the way down to like 3rd grade now. So it allowed us to do a lot more and outside of a school umbrella and the school architecture and oversight. So.
I know you had some, I want to make sure give you some, you've been trying to talk, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so to answer your question, specifically about how we handle and use the Maple City. So we spent this last year with a massive push for culture.
Has that been in a while?
And so every team member has to sign a team agreement or team manual at the beginning of the year, and that houses all of our expectations. And then we actually have a student leadership team, which is about anywhere from 10 to 30% of the team, they want to be part of our student leadership team. So in that program, 2 hours a week, we actually teach them about leadership. And we do we do role playing about it and how to handle awkward communication moments or behavior that is working. And we work with the kids to get them as, baby newbies to, they can kind of self-direct their teammates if there are behavior issues. We're in Fairfax.
Yeah. So, yeah, if you would say when you're coming, if you would share like the program
Yes.
generally and location, so we can kind of, and I'm going to repeat a couple of things that you said about team members getting involved in leadership, because I'm not sure we picked up your voice for the people that are listening. Yeah, so if we can just, I'll have teacher voices in here so that we can be picked up here. This is the microphone and there's another one back there.
I'll get closer, so I was in the corner. So I'm Renee with 8592 Newton Square in Fairfax. And we're essentially a brand new team. And so our first couple years were pretty sketchy, just like, what are we doing? I think we've all experienced that. So this past year, a major push that we did was for culture development, creating communities. And then we did that with the student leadership team, 2 hours a week. We bring them in and we do all aspects of leadership and even role playing. And I even take them outside. We do like team building work outside with that sub team. And then they actually begin self-correcting the behavior within the team. The other thing we do, yeah.
I was gonna ask if you have, or if you're willing to share any of your
Yes, please.
information.
Sure. In terms of like the student leadership team?
Yeah, like how you run it, or if you have any like
We have,
programs and stuff.
Yeah.
we have a guide that goes out and gets updated every year. I'll take a look at it, see if this is applicable.
We'll share our contact information. If people are willing to share things, we can make sure that gets posted through First Chesapeake and shared, if you're willing to do that.
Yeah.
For mentoring, you said we do these things. Are we the parents? Do you have volunteer? Who are your mentors?
Exactly. So we have and then the next level that we did is we actually put an org chart in place. So we really wanted to be sort of not loosey-goosey, but a little loosey-goosey. Like, it's not school. We are a community team that works in a massive maker space. It's supposed to be their fun place to come. But we realized after a couple of years that nobody knew clear direction of who had what responsibility. And so this year, one of our coaches who started as a parent, I started as a parent, the Thompsons, our other head coaches, they started as parents a long time ago. They no longer are parents. And so we figured out we need an org chart to figure out where does the responsibility lie? Yeah. Calling now. And so that org chart, then what we did was we structured ourselves so that the mentors coming in to do the work of the topic, meaning if they're there as programmers or there's mechanical leads or electrical leads, they then, if they have an issue with a kid, it scales straight up to the top of the org chart, so the head coaches now deal with any behavioral issues. And then the next level we did is if we're having an issue with the kid, we try to talk with the kid. We have the student leadership team, try to talk with the kid, guiding them. We talk with the kid. If we still don't feel comfortable with what's going on, we have it as a requirement that the parent then has to come with the kid to every meeting until we resolve the issue. So we did put in a ton of structure in place that at first feels very school-like and yucky in a sense, but it makes it so much smoother. And we do reference that team agreement when we're having issues. So we keep building it up each year. So we have a document that says, hey, like, this is the thing we're observing that's not matching the community culture that we're trying to establish. Let's talk about how to resolve it. So that's how we kind of save the mentors, because they don't want to deal with the kids arguing or misbehaving. And so
Yeah.
the kids now deal with it, and now it's really clear the head coaches deal with it. And that lets the coding coach be a coding coach.
Just in the interest of time, I just want to, we want to hit the 4 topics, and then if there's time left, we can always come back, just. Oh, I didn't realize, yeah, thanks for, let me
While you're
just.
looking that up, is everybody familiar with the first alumni? Because if that's not something, like, at least 2 of my mentors have been alumni that have come back, so they're not parents, and they just want to come back to get back.
Yeah, if they can, like geographically, if that works,
Yeah.
depending on where you are. Yeah, so we're gonna move on to the next topic and.
And I promise,
you know,
if we have time, we'll come back and discuss, because I just want to make sure we hit the 4 topics, because the money is going to be a big one, space is going to be a big one. Students,
We put the bullets up here as, these are the places, of course, that students come from. They're in your neighborhood, they know about the space that you have. School, and I don't know if I added PTA, I think that I did, like school.
yeah.
Somehow contact with school.
So the PTA I think maybe I added,
I think you
but
did that.
yeah, but the PTA this is kind of how I got my FLL kids when I had FLL teams. There's all these parents who want to do it, but they don't want to do it. So finally, this kind of ties into money also. You go talk to the PTA president and say like, hey, I'm willing to run 2 teams. And I'll be very honest. The reason I did that was I had 2 kids. One was in middle school, one was in elementary school, and they didn't want to be in the same team. And I didn't have enough kids. I only had enough kids from the elementary school. So I went to the PTA at middle school and said, I'm willing to run a first leg league team if the PTA sponsored. And they said, oh, that's a good idea. They said, oh, we'll give you $500. And I'm like, oh, okay, that's good. And so I just, they sent an email out. And believe it or not, this email, I mean, I did a meet and greet. I had 28 kids show up, and I'm like, shoot, now I can't back out of this. And I didn't want to bring these kids to my house. And that's when I was trying to do it out of the tech lab. It was all like the same issues you had. You had to get out at 8 o'clock. So I live in this neighborhood. If people know, it's a mixed use community. My office was in this. So there's a commercial district on the other side, a residential's here, and I'm very good friends with the developer. So I just sent an email to the developer and said, do you have any basement in your commercial buildings to do? I just need some space. And that's how I started it, right? That's why I said I accidentally started this thing. So it went from trying to get a team for my kids to next thing I know, I've got 5 FLL teams, and I didn't have a place to host them. And that's how it all panned out. So that's why I put in the PTA there, but go ahead, continue.
Yeah, I think, for me, it's not been a problem at the lower levels, except for FLL, finding kids. And I am, I didn't give a full background. I am also a co-partner for FLL in Maryland. I've been on the FLL committee for a long time. And have been involved in other ways. So my email gets out there and I constantly am getting this, hey, my kid loves Legos. Can you put him on a team for me? So I don't have a problem finding students that want to be on an FLL team. Okay, that is not a problem. But for the FRC community team, because we don't have the direct connection, that's a little bit harder to find the right kids. And so we have multiple teams under Pi Cubed, and they are sort of farm teams. I think, Joe, half our team right now was on some other one of our teams, at least half the current, and there's 25 kids, and most of them, more than half, I'd say right now it's more than half, started out on one of those other teams. So then they knew about us because we keep a connection and they kind of just, move up when they're ready. Some stay on FTC till they're through high school. Some like to move to FRC, but having farm teams is the way to do it. Of course, it's more work. Interestingly, if I had 28 teams apply, and I still do usually have meetings in the summer. And for all those people, those kids love Legos and want to be, and we're in Carroll County. So I say, if you're in our region, we'll have a meeting in the summer and I'll tell you all about it. And I do. And I tell them what it takes to coach. And they're all like, yeah. And I say, okay, now here's what I need. 2 people raise your hand. Good, you're coaching. Okay, everybody else go talk to them. And that's how we start a lot of our community teams. And they do not work in our space. They usually end up at somebody's house because it's FLL. But those are the farm teams. So that's what I mean about farm teams. You kind of get in, you get an idea, and their parents get in, right? And their parents start, and they get the idea. How many years did you coach FLL, Joe?
I survived twice.
Yeah. So he was one of my victims. Who raised-
I'll raise the hand.
And he's here. So that's kind of how it works for us sometimes to find students, but it's very different levels. So I'd be interested in your experience.
So I like Joe was the person that raised their hand. For our team, my question though is, are you seeing a lot of sustainability and continuity in FLL with that? Because I get the feeling when I'm looking at how like the community model works with our FRC team that's local, you get like 1 or 2 years and that's about it.
For FRC or for FLL?
FLL, for
Yeah.
FLL. So is there, like, have you seen any continuity with FLL staying FLL so that they can build a base of knowledge? Or is it all just kind of like waves in and out for you?
It does go in and out.
I
I'd say
can
the level of interest wanes a little bit, but there's always plenty. There's always plenty more, but they do lose the coaches and have to continually go through this.
So you're
Okay,
reinventing the wheel.
it's the coaches because the coaches move with the kids.
Right.
So,
And I'll just,
oh, go ahead.
Is there anyone here in Maryland, Montgomery County?
Not Montgomery. Yeah, they're
Montgomery,
back there.
Rockville Robotics, right?
Yes,
Right, okay, cool.
Yeah.
We have a PJ, right? PJ?
we're mostly focused on FTC.
So I'm John Murtaugh from Team 686, Provide Intervention on that proceed. And just to put one little point out on where to find students that have self-owned bar experience, we were from within a school, moving more and more to a community-based team. We're essentially located in Frederick County in the city. So just to kind of point out, the one thing that we had to do is understand our county. So the demographics and so forth. So we have other teams that are in Frederick County itself. There are areas that are underserved. They don't have robotic programs, so forth. So we have a map showing where all the districts within the public schools are, and then also with the private schools. And that's where we're sort of looking at where to focus on outreach. And also with our communications to schools that do not have those robotic programs. So I think part of that message that I'm just kind of bringing forth is the demographics, understanding your real estate, your region. And also, from our experience at these outreach events that we're doing, we're listening to parents, trying to understand what do those farm teams look like, because that was one of the challenges. Where are those FLL teams? We hear parents talking about these bubbles of students that are coming up out of these different communities. So listening to the community in itself is a wealth of understanding your demographics of where those population moves are occurring. But that's the one thing from our point that we're trying to reach into locations in the county that I call desert areas that definitely need to have a program to tap into. Parents don't know what these program opportunities are all about. So first, I think just getting that demographic stuff, understand your region.
I'll give you one demographic point. There are 324 teams that competed in FLL in Maryland last year. 90 of them were in Montgomery County, almost all of them in Rockville.
Like asking me to speak.
Just, no, I'm just telling you that the base is built in Rockville, but most everybody else has something of the desert. So you have lots of opportunity. I don't know Virginia data, but it's out there, so.
Go ahead and talk. I'm just going to switch to the next slide, but go ahead, just because we only have 15 minutes, but go ahead, go ahead.
Just a quick show of hands before we take the money, it's gonna be very different. Raise your hand if you are in Maryland. Okay, raise your hand if you're in Virginia. Okay, so for all you Virginia folks, we talk about money. This is because somebody said this to me recently. You guys are all great because robotics is a sport in Virginia, right? So they give you money.
No.
That's exactly what I've had to explain to people who go, wow, in Virginia, it's a sport, so they don't have to worry about the money. And I go, no, this is not the case.
Those are just words.
So it is still about the money.
It also depends on your athletic director of the school and whether they truly acknowledge the.
Yes, it comes down to that person right there.
You guys are smart.
It's really a community thing.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So being a sport in the state doesn't matter to your community teams at all, but it also doesn't make you still want to stay in your school.
I have, so in contrast, I'm in Virginia, but I have 4 girls on my team right now. I run an all-girls program. So we have a very small team. We have 4 girls, 4 different schools,
And the level,
FTC.
FTC, okay.
It was the
And
same.
it,
Yeah.
yeah, and it was the same with FLL. So I think one of the things that comes with, tying these two together with the students and the money is our student base, and I think this is an okay program for it's working for us as word of mouth. We use our outreach and we use our friend groups, and the girls find like-minded girls, and they go and they recruit and they say, I think you should join us. I think you should do this. And so it's very student run in terms of the sustainability in the students and the participants. What comes into play then with the money, though, is because we are not affiliated with any type of educational institution, we rely on community support and family support. And so where we are in Virginia is more rural and does not have a lot of discretionary income to give a lot of the time. So we have families that supplement other families participating so that the girls that have an interest aren't turned away.
So I'll,
See a lot of heads nodding to that.
I'll throw something about how I did money. Because it ties back to your question about continuity from FLM. So here's the thing I figured out in this community, okay? So I can't talk about any other. People don't mind spending $500 if it is a babysitting gig, right? So if it is 12-year and below, okay? They're like, okay, I can just get my kid away and I pay $500, they're out of my house. They're willing to join the FLLT. So that was my biggest money maker. What does that do? That funds my FRCT. I have kids at FLL. Literally after that first team is built, your robot is repeated every year, but I'll charge $500 because I am tired of going and asking, because kids will do all the fundraising, show and tell and all, but you gotta pound that thing, asking companies for money. I was asking friends of mine who sold their companies after like 3 years, like, dude, you gotta go to the next guy. That's what they think. So like friends, you can only tap into your friends so much. So FLL was your biggest money maker for me. I would have 7 teams. I'll make money out of it. It just goes straight into the FRC program. That was my biggest money maker. So that's why I want to throw that into the show me the money slide there.
One other show of hands. How many community teams out there charge something to be on the team? Charge the students something. So how many of you do not charge anything? Okay, so definitely majority are asking for something, yeah.
I'm like you.
Are you getting the microphones?
So I like what you just said, we're an FRC team, we don't depend on student fees for significant funding whatsoever. The budget for FRC is so high.
Yeah.
You'd have to charge everybody like $3,000 or something like that. But really what we try to do is to say there's a commitment from the family. If it's free, and you're depending on a student to be in a leadership position or development position, and they're not showing up, we always figured if there was some sort of monetary investment in the family, that the students would show up more frequently and be more engaged. So really our the reason that we even have student fees is to give a family commitment,
Commitment, yeah.
not for significant funding.
Absolutely, right, yeah. And I can tell you one thing, I'll give you my, when I ran the FRC team, we, from October till April, it'll get you to district championship, not worlds, and we never went to worlds, but it was $33,000 to $35,000 is what. Student fee would bring us only about $11,000. So the rest is through FLL and begging and borrowing is how we made it work.
I see a lot of nodding, so that's a number that FTC, you might be in shock, but for FRC,
That's still more money than.
Yeah.
Yeah, as if we go around and just get a rough gauge of what people's views are, like not to. So our kids actually had an incident at World, not this year, but last year, where the judges were offended that there were views involved. Did you have that too?
No, it's a, and not specifically, but it is a byline of copy.
And so- We never want to price anybody out, but we agree with Prasad too, that we want to commit. If somebody joins our team, it means we have to cap our levels. Because we just can't take everybody, and so we don't want somebody coming in and taking another kid's space who isn't fully committed, so that fee helps. And so I'm just wondering, like, what is the range that as a community teams?
let's do a quick show of hands again too. So anybody that's under $100 for a FRC, okay? Under $200 or up to 200, up to 300. 4, 5.
Five was us.
Yeah, we're 5. Anything more than 500 a year. Okay. So it's a range, right?
Jim, how much
It's really
6.
6.
Well,
Yeah.
What?
$600. But here's the thing, okay,
Southern Maryland.
Yeah.
here's the
Yeah.
thing. How much does it cost? And this is what you have to ask your parents. How much does it cost for the travel soccer team? Yeah.
See, that's the thing, right?
So, White
Parents
bag.
are willing to pay the $2,000 for the lacrosse and lacrosse here. But there's this, especially in the high school space, and this is why I said about babysitting. The after 12 years, you don't have, your kids can be, you can leave the kids home alone, right? You don't need to have a babysitter. So parents will ask the kids, hey, you want to go to robotics? Yeah, I'll just play on my computer or something. And the parents are willing to do it. But below 5, and I hate to say it like this, but leverage that below 12 years, leverage it and make, I'm not taking that money home. I'm putting it into the high school program, right? So
That's where
also-
they're able to pay it, and we
Yeah.
are gonna have to roll on. I'm gonna add one other thing here, that there are other sources, and I know you guys are familiar with, the grants that are available. And everybody's always talking about the grants, really not that many. It depends on where you are, right? If you're near somebody. The corporate sponsorships, as Prasad said, you have to be out there knocking, and you need an adult to be involved in it. There are lots of other ways to bring money in. Maybe this is a way that we want to continue the conversation a little bit later, but we brought up space a few times. So before we wrap up
Yeah.
today, let's talk a little bit about space, because I kind of think this is really key, because if you're in community, you got no school space. Actually, we didn't have very much school space to begin with. But what do you do? Where do you meet? What, like, how do you find a place to gather the kids? And this is really hardest, of course, at the FRC level, right?
So I can talk about my experience. I got, like I said, 6,000 square foot space for free for 8 years. Okay, they even, when I turned it off back to them, they said, you sure you don't want to keep it? You don't want to run another program? And I said, I'm done, right? And the reason, it was nothing about, what I found was, and it's different for each person, right? I mean, this is again, like I fundraise a lot. So the way how you talk to owners, you have to find what they're passionate about and work towards that. In my case, the building owner, I mean, he's got, I think, 2 million square foot of space right here. So 6,000 square foot is nothing for him. But he's always about community building and all. So I said, I'm doing this for the community. So I said, sure, have it, right? I mean, literally, I mean, I had the basement of the building, but above ground, it was like $40 a square foot for retail. That's what's going price, but I got it for free, no cam, nothing, electricity, and we had an FRC team, so we had CNC machines, wood shop, metal shop, so power also, he paid for all that. So you gotta touch what brings, I mean, even we got Maryland to do this thing where you have I think property tax. If they donate space to robotics team, the building owner could claim that property tax. I told him, he said like, out of my whole space, it's going to cost me more to just get the tax deduction. I'll just give it to you. I don't even want to know about it. So that's a different person, right? Now, if you go to another community, I don't know what that is. Rose could probably speak about, because I know you jumped
We
between.
went, and I talked to a
multiple-
lot of you, I talked to you, Tim, I thought you were still in the first space. At some point, I think C Company had some, retail space
Yeah, for a while.
for a little while.
So Chesapeake adopted us, Chesapeake High School, but they don't sponsor us. So like we have a lab, like we have like a workshop, but we get no help with the space. We pay the janitorial fees. We don't get busing like the clubs do, like the sports do. So that's most of our budget is the logistics of running the team. Even though, yeah, cool, we have somewhere to store our tools. And we can't access them during the summer. What's the point?
I know this came up earlier, some other people want to share kind of some situations, with the space, anything unique, or, I mean, I don't think anybody else has free space, 6,000 square feet.
Yeah.
Anybody? Yeah.
Dream.
So I mentioned earlier, we partnered with a private school, and so because they're a private school, like a bunch of our mentors have keys, so we can get in basically anytime the school's not in session. They're paying for all the electricity. The advantage to them is like their students have first run at being in there. Their students come right after the school sports and stuff. And I think they give us like $1,000 a year to like play with, which is kind of like a nice kicker, but like from that point of view,
And
But
this
the
is
facility adds a lot of.
FRC, yeah, and we've done other, we've had First Tech and First Lady League occasionally.
Mhm.
But I think the other thing that's kind of challenging is that it's a shared space. So like the front third of the classroom, the teacher wants cleaned up every night, most of the time. So that can be a little bit challenging, but you
It's
know.
also a good problem to have, because we get in a habit of not cleaning it.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. And you guys are in, you have a barn?
So we were lucky that the head mentor who started the team like 16 years ago, owns a farm in rural Virginia, so a converted farm created this build space and Renee did that in.
Yeah, when he said that the farm and a farm crib, like, he's legit. I got you to think of the picturesque, photos. Yeah, the picturesque photos on like calendars, that's where they're meeting. It's beautiful and the wind is coming through the building.
And a hay loft and a barn is.
Yeah.
We have enough room to have a FRC field. But what I wanted to mention is that we talk about space, we talk about square footage, but I'm curious how if you're using space, you have like CNC routers and lathes and all that other.
We had-
Structure, how does that work? It's not your
So-
space.
So in my case, after a long sojourn from, we had some free space to somebody's basement, to their garage, to a basement garage. It was 1 degree outside, I think it was 0 in the garage, to another space we paid for, to the current space we had to renovate and we paid for. Now we have room for the CNC machine, all of the, everything. But our workspace is about the size of this room and includes all of the workspace, the workshop, like everything's in a space this big. 25 kids is kind of our limit because we can't put any more in there and be productive. And there's like a little office upstairs. And it costs us $20,000 a year. $20,000 a year. And that's why we have to charge, because half the kids' money goes to, we have to pay the rent and we have to pay utilities and we have to pay for internet. That space and it's up to $20,000 a year.
So there's a question on the chat. Does anyone in the room have advice for reaching out to schools if you don't have a teacher mentor? Who do you contact? Principal, PTA, some other groups? Anybody want to?
Yeah,
chime
so
in for that?
my name is Ethan. I'm from Blacksburg, Virginia, the other Montgomery County. And so with schools, yeah, absolutely, reach out to the principals, reach out to the CTE instructors, the career technical education instructors. And if you're trying to get involved in the schools, reassure them that, you know, a teacher can just be a name on a paper, somebody who unlocks the building, and then if you provide the mentors, you know, the teacher can grade papers in the back.
And they'll get money for it too.
Exactly, yeah.
Sometimes.
If they can, it's fantastic.
Our CBT teacher's son is on the team, we can't get him to be the sponsor or the teacher.
That's
And his kid's on our team.
I think the teachers oftentimes, or in our experience, got scared of the level of commitment. Right, opening the door, yeah, but it's not opening the door once a week, it's opening the door basically every day, and oh, by the way, on the weekends.
Can I also give, Rockville Robotics an opportunity to talk?
Yeah, and you have, yeah.
Specifically to that question, one of the things I did is I looked at a school that had hunger, but they had a very little, they had a difficult time trying to expand and grow. And so I talked to the teacher and he was very reluctant. It took me 2 years, but he created an advisory committee. He's the project lead away teacher and he didn't know what else to do. And so I said, hey, I can help because I have brought the robotics group that I'm part of. We have the vast resources and experience, right? So I am not the main guy. Rose knows, I'm Gage O'Brien, he's the guy who's robotics. I'm not trying to overstep here, but what we have done, and as Rose alluded to, is Montgomery County is a very different county than, say, St. Mary's, or I don't know which county, Charles County, or wherever you guys are.
Yeah.
But we have 1.1 million residents. There's a lot of affluence. There's incredible hunger. So finding students is not our difficulty. It's how we can be able to satiate that hunger, because MCPS is one of the probably 20 largest school systems in the country, right? And I think there's like 250,000 students, but they don't support robotics. They don't, we have 5 FRC teams in the county, most of which are kind of with the school, but they, like Poolsville now just got kicked out of high school and they're operating out of a church, out of their FRC team, right? But we have, so there's an incredible hunger for FLO and FTC. And what we've done is, because we get so much asked, we can't actually start teams and just continue to just ourselves with a very strong cohort group be able to teach and educate. So what we do is we run a summer camp. And in conjunction with the summer camp of teaching these kids a lot of the things each week, we actually find that trying to train these kids is difficult, right? They're kids, their learning capacity is going to be only so much. But we do a train-the-trainer program, and that I think answers the question back to the mentor part. So we take parents, and I think I used to be a parent. I wasn't a coach to start. I was a drop-off parent. I'll be honest. I wanted to go to other parents, and for a long story, before I was I became a coach. And so what I found was when I first started, I'm like, I don't know how to help, so I might as well stay out of the way, or I don't know how to help. And I'm actually probably going to hurt with my suggestions, not knowing the nuances of my decisions, right? But we do per week, 3 hours every week, we do a trainer to help these parents, to empower them to feel like they can coach. And then when they need help every week, throughout the season also, we have a 1-hour Zoom meeting to help answer questions, then be able to help them so they feel like, okay, this isn't such a thing. There's a community of support to continue throughout to answer these questions. And again, I'm just speaking from FPC standpoint. FRC people, you all are, I wish I could get there, but we don't have the money or the space.
Don't have that much money.
So last year, I coached 2 FPC teams, and under Rocco, Robotics and Marlowe, we have 12.
I don't know how.
They're all-
30 grand.
They're all
So you're
FPC.
skill building FTC then, correct?
It's all FPC because while Montgomery County has money from these families, the rent costs of any space is insane. And so I wish I had a friend developer like you. That's our
I
biggest,
was just lucked out, that's all.
that's our biggest.
No, I'm sorry, that is your biggest thing. I'm looking at the
Yeah,
time. We're a little bit over, but you haven't made a comment yet, so. I'm
Yeah,
gonna-
just because I'm a rookie parent, got drafted as a mentor.
Welcome to the club.
For FRC, I was also like a humanities kid at the STEM school growing up, so all this is really fascinating to me. Anybody else whose teams, community teams formed because of the issues with the school system, did any of the school systems go to VEX, and that was part of what, because that's what we had in our county, a lot of, because I guess the TSA VEX thing, and the CTE center sort of went with that and sort of got out of FRC, and I've heard from other people.
That was the
that that's
definition.
That definitely is a factor. I think Baltimore City, that's definitely the biggest factor, and I think it's some other areas. It definitely can be.
I think it can be because both VEX and FTC are much more curriculum aligned and can be done in a classroom setting much easier than a full-scale FRC can be.
So we have our contact.
So
Yeah.
this question,
I
just,
think for schools, that works a lot better because you don't need the technical skill that you need even for OTs.
So there are a lot of other topics.
there's a lot we can talk. I'll be here till they kick us out of this room, but just for, if anyone wants to leave, or that's my contact, Rose's contact, you can contact me. Like I said, I guess I'm going to be with First Chesapeake for a little bit longer, even though that was not my.
Share
But-
the slides later too.
Yeah.
I think,
Yeah.
knowing
And a fairly
Alex.
poor recording probably, considering we were all
Yeah.
over the room, but you guys were here, you saw the conversation. The idea is to continue the conversation in some way, and so we will talk to Alex about, how that might happen, because I'm sure this brought up a lot more questions than we were able to address. And we did mention, there's the whole issue of liability, which to me, I didn't want to get into it because I know that's different for everybody, but, I don't, we have to pay for insurance.
And I will tell you one story
There's a
about
lot of other things.
the
that come up
liability.
related to that.
So, I was going to, I asked my developer friend, why don't we have a lease? So he said, how about not have a lease? We just use the space, because if you do a lease, you'll have to get your own insurance.
Insurance, yeah.
Right now, it'll go under my building insurance, is what he said.
Oh.
I
So-
want friends like yours.
That's like the unicorn. That's the unicorn.
Where are we in this position? Like, I know that there's a Facebook group for CHS mentors, that took me a while to find, and that's all. There's a.
Yeah.
Slack.
No, but that is not First Chesapeake authorized unless,
It's just the mentors.
yeah, it's just the mentors, but I
You
think
also tell you, and then when you get it.
No, listen, we're gonna talk to Alex about
Alex,
how best.
There is a,
there's
there's
I'll
Slack,
say
right?
Slack.
There's a Slack.
There's
sure
a
he's gonna
first
say
Chesapeake
Slack.
Slack, so I'm sure we can get a channel spun up.
Discord, Slack, yeah, I mean, I know there's a Slack.
Channel would be just a great thing to have.
Just real quick, if anybody else on top. So I do run my club, a little bit, so the student leadership part of it, I'm the scout master. I kind of run it that way. If you want to find more resources, changing leadership roles, there's different resources out there, you can use that. For the mentor division of labor, I run it like a company. Each kid knows this mentor is the CIO, CFO, CCO, so on the hardware, software, financial, internal team issues. They know exactly who to go to. There's no playing mom versus dad, right? It helps.
Sorry.
It helps a lot. Like an org chart, running it as a business, it reduces the load of leadership
Yes.
significantly.
That's my first thought is a way to share or like put questions and say, I'd like to find out. And I know that Shelley and Alex and they are really pushing to have these Slack channels and, people communicate on Slack. I run out of bandwidth for too many Slack channels.
Yeah.
So if this is really what you're interested in, we'll talk about making it a little more targeted, maybe some sort of resource sharing that doesn't require you to read through.
And like we
much
said,
as you need
everybody's
to read through.
situation is different, circumstances and their community is different, so, it's just, the conversation has to continue, it shouldn't stop in just this room after 12 o'clock, so,
But chat over lunch, talk to
yeah, we
us.
can,
Anybody else here that
and
seems
I
to-
put my email out there because, I still get people like, 2 weeks ago, some person contacted me via Facebook and said, I was told you're the person to talk to join a FLL team. I stopped that, but this is what I'll help you start one.
Yes, that's my answer.
Yeah, so feel free to email me, and I'm pretty responsive, or at least, text is best, but email, let's start with email.
And it's 4 Ps.
Yeah, that's 4 Ps.
Thank you all for coming. Thanks.